When I turned 30, the man I married younger than me by a few years had already begun to drift away. It had been more than 6 months since we had last shared any intimacy, and though I tried to ignore the emptiness growing between us, his words to his friends still cut like knives. He called me dirty, said I was unattractive, that I had aged too quickly and lost the spark that once drew him to me. That kind of cruelty seeps into your bones, the kind you pretend not to hear, but never forget. And then of course came the girl. A young, beautiful college student untouched by the weight of adulthood, the kind of girl who made him feel alive again. When I discovered her existence, my heart cracked open, but I did not allow myself the luxury of falling apart. In the world of grown-ups, you may cry for love at night, but come morning, you put on your clothes, fix your face, and go to work as if nothing has happened. That is the unspoken rule of survival. I tell you the story not just because it is mine, but because it is the story of how adults learn to end things with divorce papers, signatures, and a silence that screams louder than any fight. And it all began with one phone call, a call that sliced through the illusion of my marriage. Adrian was in the shower that night when his phone rang. The number flashing on the screen was local, unsaved, and unknown. I picked it up. Twice I said hello, then asked who was there. On the other end there was nothing but silence, and then the click of a call abruptly ended. Just a few seconds, but enough for me to feel the strange connection of recognition, as though whoever it was knew exactly who I was. And in that same instant I knew something was wrong. I unlocked Adrian's phone, my hands trembling only slightly, and traced the number back through his social media app. It led me to her. A girl. Her profile picture was a cartoon avatar with wide eyes and an innocent smile. The username Scarlett Rose. She had no notes, no obvious connections, and her notifications were turned off. Their chat history was nearly spotless, but one unread message remained glowing on the screen, like a dagger aimed at me. I miss you. Just 3 words yet. They stole the air from my lungs and knotted my chest with unbearable pain. The possibility that Adrian had been unfaithful surged through me like electricity. My hand went slack around his phone, powerless to hold it, powerless to hold on to the version of him I thought I knew. Still, I tapped into her personal page. Her cover photo seemed to be a real picture of her hair, tied in a neat bun. Lips pursed, her face radiating with youth and charm. She was beautiful. I didn't study the details. Instead, I lifted my own phone and captured a quick photo for proof. Scrolling quickly through her posts, my eyes froze on one. She had written, "Send me exactly $109, not $1 more, not $1 less." Below was a screenshot of her chat with Adrian. She called him by some pet name, demanding the $199 he had promised. He had transferred $20,000 instead, and she had sent it back with disdain, insisting, "I only want $199. He hesitated, replying with nothing but ellipses, but in the end he sent the exact amount she asked for. Her final words twisted my stomach. "Do you know what $199 means? It means I want to be with you forever." I felt nothing outwardly, but inside every bone ached. I captured the post and saved it, my evidence growing. Leaving her page, I opened Adrian's transaction history. Line after line scrolled past, an endless stream of transfers between the two of them. The largest was a fixed payment, $500,000 at the beginning of each month for 3 consecutive months. Beyond that were dozens of smaller sums, $1,000, $2,000, $100, $200. And among them, repeating like cruel jokes, were numbers with secret meanings. 999, 520, 113, 14. I snapped every screenshot I could, my case building with each swipe of my thumb. Through it all, I remained calm. My face a mask, my breathing steady. Before I closed the app, I even marked their conversation as unread, so he would notice nothing amiss. Then his voice startled me from the doorway. "What's wrong? Why are you staring like that?" I looked up. Adrian had stepped out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, hair damp droplets running down shoulders, broad and toned abs, tight and sculpted like the man he had always been. He carried his body like a prize, and people had often envied me for it. They would say, "Unless he killed someone or burned down a house, what fault could you possibly not forgive in a man like that?" And besides, hadn't he loved me so completely once? I used to believe it too. I used to believe I was the only woman in his world. But now I knew otherwise. "Someone called for you just now," I said, my voice steady. They hung up without saying a word. "Do you want to check who it was?" Probably just a wrong number, he replied casually, taking the phone from my hand without suspicion. His face was smooth, unreadable, as if nothing in the world were wrong. He tossed the towel into the laundry basket, reached for his cigarette pack, and stepped onto the balcony. Adrian always smoked out there, not because he wanted to, but because I couldn't stand the smell indoors, or so I thought. What I didn't know yet was that the balcony wasn't just for cigarettes, but the truth was, Adrian didn't step out onto the balcony just for a cigarette. A few minutes later, he returned fully dressed, slipping into a crisp shirt and jeans, as though he had somewhere to be. "Babe," he said casually while fastening his watch. "I need to step out for a bit. Something urgent came up." "Don't wait up for me." I looked at him, my chest tightening. "What is it?" Ethan's system is acting up again. Every time I touch it, it glitches. He swears it works fine until I get near it, so I promised I'd stop by. If it's late, I'll just crash at his place. The explanation came too easily, too rehearsed. It was perfect. A reason, an excuse, even a witness to cover his absence. My instincts screamed at me, but my lips only formed a quiet, "All right, be careful." He left in a rush, his cologne lingering in the silence he abandoned. I stood staring at our wedding photo on the wall, the one that once made me proud. Now the smiling faces captured in that frame mocked me. Why Adrian? Why did you betray me, and who exactly was she? This Scarlett Rose, her face, her youth, the endless stream of money he funneled to her, her sickeningly sweet messages. Every detail looped in my mind, until suddenly a memory struck me hard enough to make me reach for my phone. I had seen her before. Half a year ago, when Adrian was taken to the LAPD for assault. He had gotten into a fight so vicious his opponent's face was bloodied and swollen. I had rushed to bail him out. His cheekbone was bruised, but it wasn't his injury that scared me. It was his eyes. I hadn't seen that kind of rage in him for years, the kind that burned wild and dangerous, his body taut with fury. The man he fought with demanded an apology, compensation, anything. Adrian laughed darkly, his voice like ice, and if I hadn't held him back, he would have lunged again. Once we got outside, a girl in a uniform ran up, breathless and frantic. She showered him with gratitude. "Sir, if it weren't for you tonight, I don't know what would have happened. Thank you so much." I remember staring at her, my brows knitting together. Adrian's jaw tightened, his impatience obvious. "Find another job," he snapped. She dropped her gaze, shame coloring her cheeks. "If I had any other choice, I wouldn't." Her words faltered, cut short by his irritation. "Not my problem. Do whatever you want." He brushed her off, his hand cold as he shoved past her. Ivy was with me that night. As Adrian stormed off, Ivy tugged my arm. "Don't you see? She looks a little like you." I laughed it off, dismissing her words as nonsense. But as I turned for one last glance, I caught her eyes wide, desperate, oddly familiar. And now, staring at her face on my phone screen, I realized with a jolt it was the same girl, Scarlett Rose. Adrian didn't come home that night. He returned the following evening carrying takeout from my favorite hot pot restaurant. "I had to wait forever in line," he said with a forced grin. "Eat up, I'm going to shower." "Sure," I replied. He disappeared into the bathroom, steam soon hissing from the shower. I grabbed the spare car keys, slipped on my coat, and took the bag of food with me, straight to the underground garage. His car gleamed as if it had just been washed spotless and perfectly maintained. The passenger seat was adjusted exactly to the position I always used. Nothing out of place, but that wasn't what I came for. I wanted the dashcam. I scrolled through the recordings from the previous night. My breath caught as the footage unfolded before me. Adrian driving south, pulling up to the gates of the University of Southern California. He made a call, said only 2 words. Come down. Moments later, a young woman skipped into view. Her steps light, her hair bouncing, her face glowing with youth. She slid into the passenger seat, and then came the sounds, kisses, hungry breaths, the low moans of passion. Her voice cut through the static of the recording. "Did you touch that old hag?" His reply was sharp, heavy with lust. "Shut up, what do you think?" She giggled, triumphant, smug. "You're all mine. Don't you dare beg her for forgiveness." The speedometer spiked on the screen as the car accelerated recklessly. Soon they arrived at an apartment complex near campus. Hours of darkness passed until morning light revealed only Adrian stepping out of the car, alone, adjusting his clothes before walking away. I sat frozen in the driver's seat, numb, my body locked with tension. Pain seared through my muscles, and ache so deep it felt as though my bones were breaking. My hand reached for the screen to stop the footage, but before I could, the phone rang inside the car. The phone call, echoing through the dashcam footage, was from Declan Cross Adrian's childhood friend. "Where the hell are you? Why aren't you here yet?" Declan's voice carried irritation. "I'm on my way," Adrian muttered. "This isn't like you, man. Don't tell me you're back at that Scarlett Rose's place again." Adrian gave a low grunt, neither confirming nor denying. Declan sighed, words heavy with exasperation. "Come on, Adrian, this is too much. Are you serious about her?" Adrian let out a laugh, hollow and careless. "What does serious even mean? Not serious, serious. It's all the same. Don't play dumb," Declan snapped. "I thought this was just fun. Why the hell are you turning it into something long-term? What happened to Cassandra? Weren't you the one who once swore you loved her so much, you'd rather die than lose her?" How did it come to this? That question silenced Adrian for a moment. His laughter faded, replaced by something darker. After a long pause, his voice returned low and cutting. "Cassandra is 33 now, do you understand? Ever since she turned 30, I can't explain it, but I just feel like she's dirty somehow." Hearing those words through the speaker shattered something inside me. Dirty. That was how he saw me now. I sat there in the cold silence of the garage, a cigarette trembling between my fingers. The ash fell onto my skin, burning it raw, but that pain was nothing compared to the word echoing through my head. Dirty. When was the last time he had even touched me? I searched my memory and realized it had been 6 months. Back then, I was pushing myself harder at work, determined to earn a promotion, working late nights, exhausted every time I came home. Whenever Adrian reached for me, I would push him away, whispering, "Not tonight, I'm too tired. Maybe tomorrow." The first time he brushed it off with patience, even a little sympathy. The second time I could see the frustration in his eyes, but he held it back. By the third, his temper snapped. He slammed the door and left. I found him later that night in a bar, drunk and brooding, and I knew something in our marriage had broken. That night, I wrapped my arms around his neck, surrendered to his kiss, desperate to mend what was fraying between us. But it wasn't tender, it wasn't love, it was rough, rushed, almost violent. It hurt, and he knew it, stopping halfway with a curse, turning his back to me for the first time, and never reaching back in the night. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to soothe his disappointment. He patched over it himself, whispering the blame onto his own shoulders. "It was my fault I rushed you. Don't think too much about it, okay? When you have time, let's go on a trip, just up." For a while, I believed him. I convinced myself that we were okay, that even if he no longer held me in his sleep, even if half a year had gone by without intimacy, he was still good to me. I clung to that illusion. Until now. Until I heard him call me dirty. That single word froze me from the inside out, made my blood feel like ice in my veins. The cigarette shook so violently between my fingers that the ember dropped onto my skin, leaving another burn. Still, it was nothing compared to the wound carved into me by those words. Later that night, Adrian called me. "Where are you? Why aren't you back yet?" "I just went downstairs to throw out the trash," I lied, forcing calm into my voice. He made a sound of acknowledgement. "All right, I'm going to sleep." When I returned to our bedroom, he was already asleep, lying on his side at the very edge of the bed, leaving a wide empty space behind him, as though I no longer belonged there. I didn't climb into bed. I sat on the edge, staring at the back that had once been my shelter, watching the rise and fall of his breath until dawn. I first met Adrian when he was just 18, fresh out of high school, rebellious and stubborn. He had defied his family by choosing a path they despised, leaving home with nothing but a backpack slung over his shoulder. His older brother, Jonathan Knight, had worried for him and called me for help. "Pick him up at the bus station," Jonathan had said. "The kid doesn't have money, his dorm isn't open yet. Let him stay with you for now. He's stubborn as hell. If he says something out of line, just smack him." At the time, I thought Jonathan had lost his mind. An 18-year-old boy living under the same roof as me? No way. I had already planned to rent him a small place elsewhere, but then I saw him at the station, sitting beneath a tree, hugging his backpack like a stray puppy left behind. When he saw me, his eyes lit up with a mix of defiance and hope. He followed me home without complaint. Before I could tell him he'd only be staying temporarily, he tugged at my sleeve, his voice soft, almost pleading. "Please let me stay. I'll be good, I promise. I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll do anything. Just don't kick me out." I laughed, thinking it was just a trick to gain sympathy. But the next day he cooked breakfast. The day after that dinner, he scrubbed the floor, took out the trash, even bought a small scooter and started waiting outside my office after work, just to drive me home. Slowly, my quiet, lonely apartment began to feel alive. The silence was filled with his clumsy singing, his laughter, his presence. For 1 whole month, we lived together under the same roof, and everything felt warmer, easier, as if some invisible thread was already binding us. Later, I was the one who packed Adrian's bags and took him to campus. At first, I thought it would only be a temporary arrangement, a brief crossing of paths. But years later, he admitted something that pierced me deeply. He chose that university because of me. He told me that when he was 16, he had seen me once in passing, and from that moment forward, I had become the center of his world. All he had ever wanted was me. That boy with his raw defiance and unpolished heart had carried his most sincere love to my doorstep, and I had let him in. He conquered me not with money or promises, but with a devotion so pure that I couldn't resist. And yet now that same man wanted to pull everything back as though those years meant nothing. I had to find a way out before his betrayal swallowed me whole. "I want a divorce," I confessed to Ivy Mitchell one morning. "Adrian's been cheating." She stared at me shocked. What, I thought he was on a business trip. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. A business trip with his mistress, maybe, not with work. Just 3 sentences, and I watched Ivy's face go pale. "Wait," she said carefully. "Are you telling me that Adrian's so-called trip is actually with her? How can you be so sure?" I tossed her my phone. On the screen was Scarlett Rose's latest post, her hand linked tightly with Adrian's, his other hand dragging a suitcase. Her caption glared back at me, "running away together with him." In truth, I hadn't expected her to accept my friend request when I sent it, but she did. Whether she realized it was me or not didn't matter. What mattered was that she handed me the proof herself. I looked at Ivy. He said he'd be gone 3 days. "Do you think you can have divorce papers ready by then?" Her expression hardened. "I'll draft them myself," I nodded. "And don't tell Declan Cross. He doesn't need to know. You and Declan fought hard for your marriage, and I met you because of Adrian. I never thought we'd become close friends, but here we are. Fate is strange like that. Some people can live together for years and remain strangers, while others need only one meeting to become family." Ivy squeezed my hand. "I understand. Leave it to me." I studied her carefully. "What is it?" "You look like you want to say something." She shook her head after a pause. "Nothing. I'll tell you later. But are you all right? Do you want me to stay?" I forced a smile. "No, I'll be fine. I have a flight at 10. This is adulthood, isn't it? No matter how broken your heart is, you still have to show up, still have to function." Before leaving, I handed Ivy every screenshot, every video from the Dashcam, every record of money Adrian had poured into Scarlett. I also gave her a list of our shared assets. The only blessing I could cling to was that Adrian and I had no children. Ivy worked fast as always. By the afternoon of the day I returned from my trip, she had already finished the draft of the divorce settlement. "Even though he's at fault," she explained, "forcing him to leave with nothing is unrealistic. But I'll make sure you get the largest share possible." I started to protest, but Ivy cut me off, her voice sharp. "Don't say you don't need it. He betrayed you. He pays the price. Even the money he gave that girl, we can reclaim it. Mistakes don't come free." Her words left no room for argument. I smiled faintly and hugged her. "Thank you, Ivy," she patted my back gently. "It's nothing. It's just divorce. I'll always be here for you." That night, we drank until we collapsed side by side on the rug. Empty glasses scattered around us. We spoke of our pasts, our dreams, our regrets, our futures. There was laughter and there were tears, until finally sleep pulled us under. The next morning, the alarm dragged me awake, my head throbbing. I called in sick to work, painted on a light layer of makeup, and told myself I had to face Adrian. No matter how broken I felt inside, life had to go on. Thanks to Scarlett's obsession with oversharing, I had everything I needed, their entire 3-day trip mapped out in her posts. They had gone on roller coasters, soaked in hot springs, jumped off cliffs together. All the things he had once begged me to do with him, but I had refused. Adrian loved adrenaline, the rush of danger, the thrill of the extreme. I never could stomach it. He had pleaded with me to go skydiving as a couple, told me it was the ultimate romance. Even dreamed aloud about having our wedding photos taken that way. But when I stood on the platform, I froze, unable to take a single step. He had smiled and said it was all right, but I had seen the disappointment flicker in his eyes. Looking back, I realize now that there were too many ways in which Adrian and I never matched. But when you're blinded by love, you tell yourself love can overcome anything. You tell yourself lies until the lies are all you have left. Looking back now, I realize someone had been lying all along. When Adrian finally appeared, he wore sunglasses, his face cool and unreadable, every movement calm, as if nothing in the world were wrong. Beside him, Scarlett Rose clung to his arm, chatting endlessly, her voice high and playful. She walked with a light step, her youthful glow impossible to miss, her smile dazzling, her laughter alive with the kind of energy I could no longer compete with. "Next time, let's go back there," she chirped. "And for your birthday, it will be the first one we celebrate since we've been together. Adrian Knight." I called his name loud enough to slice the air. Scarlett didn't hear me or pretended not to. She kept babbling, but Adrian froze. He shoved her aside quickly, turning to face me. In that instant, his eyes darted to mine, as if he were looking at a monster standing in the sunlight. Scarlett's face blanched, her steps faltering as she glanced at him for reassurance, torn between running to him and staying frozen. She looked pathetic. Adrian's composure returned in a heartbeat. "Scarlett, go ahead without me." Her lips trembled, her eyes filling with tears. She shook her head, unwilling to leave. I stepped closer, voice smooth, deliberately kind. "Go with us, then. It's hard to get a cab around here." Adrian's jaw tightened, his brows furrowed, but he snapped at her. "Go on. Why are you still standing here?" Scarlett flinched, stepping back as though struck. But when I repeated, "Come along," she obeyed, trailing behind us like a lost puppy. I walked ahead. Adrian followed directly behind Scarlett, lagging at his heels. When Adrian reached for the passenger door, I stopped him cold. "It's already taken. You can sit in the back. Surely you wouldn't want to leave a young girl to sit alone back there." He stared at me, his face unreadable, his emotions bottled tightly beneath his skin. Then he let out a cold, bitter laugh, slammed the door harder than necessary, and stalked to the rear seat. The air inside the car turned suffocating, the silence pressing down on all of us. Finally, I broke it. "Scarlett, Adrian and I need to talk. Would you like to ride along, or should I drop you at campus first?" Her name made her flinch. She stammered, I... Adrian cut her off sharply, his voice rough with restrained fury. "Cassandra, what exactly are you trying to do?" I met his reflection in the rearview mirror, his face tight with impatience, anger coiled beneath his skin, waiting to strike. My lips curved into a smile. The more frustrated he grew, the calmer I felt. "Scarlett, what's your major?" I asked lightly. "German," she whispered, confused. "Really? Just like me," I mused, as though it were destiny. "I actually have a friend teaching at USC. You must know him." I spoke a name deliberately. Her face drained of color instantly, her voice trembling. He's my advisor," I laughed. What a coincidence. When we finally reached her dorm, she bolted out of the car, rushing away without a backward glance. I turned to Adrian. "Where's that apartment you've been renting nearby? Let's go there to talk." His eyes locked onto mine, dark, sharp, brimming with tension. He enunciated each word like a blade scraping across glass. "What the hell do you really want, Cassandra?" I let the smile fall from my lips, meeting his gaze with calm detachment. "This entire drive, all I wanted was for you to feel disgusted. Now we can talk about the divorce." We didn't go up to the apartment. Instead, we stayed in the car. Adrian lit a cigarette, the smoke curling through the silence between us. He said nothing. Neither did I. The satisfaction I had felt earlier began to dissolve. I had wanted to disgust him, but in the end, wasn't I only making myself feel repulsed too? I reached into my bag, pulled out my lighter, and lit a cigarette for the first time in years. His voice broke the silence, low and hoarse. "How long has it been?" I blinked. "What, you smoking again? How long has it been?" I exhaled a long stream of smoke. 7, 8 years. I quit when I started working. You were the one who made me stop. You told me it wasn't good for my health. You said you buy me candy. You said if I got angry, I could take it out on you, just not on my lungs. And so I quit. Until now." Adrian's hands trembled. The cigarette slipped from his fingers, falling onto the leather seat where it left a burning hole. He swore, tried to brush it away with frantic hands, but the damage was done. His panic, his anger, his fear. It was all spilling out now. Adrian's hands scrubbed at the scorched leather, each motion harsher, more frantic, until he lost control. With a furious growl, he kicked the car door so hard the frame shuddered. "God damn it," he spat, voice shaking. "There's no fixing this. No way back." His eyes flicked to me, dark and resigned. "And you'll never forgive me, will you?" "No," I said flatly. He gave a cold, bitter laugh and thrust his hand toward me. "Then give me the divorce papers." He didn't even bother to read them. He flipped straight to the last page, scrawled his signature, and shoved them back at me. "The house," he said as he yanked the door open. "I won't go back there. I'll pick up my things when I get the time." Then he was out of the car, slamming the door behind him with finality. Leaning one hand against the roof, his phone pressed to his ear, he muttered to the person on the other end. "Come out, don't stay at the dorm tonight. Yeah, I'm waiting outside for you." He hung up, his eyes narrowing at me. "When you're ready to go to the courthouse, call me." Then he turned away. The cruelty of it hit like a punch into air, empty, infuriating, impossible to fight against. He wanted me to feel this way. He wanted me powerless. I poured another glass of wine, drained it in one gulp, and let the burn sear down my throat. Adrian Knight had always been arrogant to his core. His life, his choices, everything about him was rooted in the same belief: I am never wrong. And even if I am, what can you possibly do about it? I had braced myself for his reaction. Had imagined the coldness, the contempt. Yet when it finally came, the weight of it crushed me. My hands trembled around the glass, my chest hollowing with the hurt. I had thought at the very least he might give me an apology. Just one word, sorry, something to dull the blade of his betrayal. We always expect that from the ones who wound us, don't we? That they should at least be remorseful. Without it, the pain never eases. 10 years. From the moment he was 18 until now at 28, those 10 years had been mine too. I had gone from being an outsider in his world to being dragged into it, tied to him in ways I couldn't escape. When he loved me, he drowned me in sweetness. When he stopped, he carved me apart with 1,000 knives. He should have given me that apology. But instead I got silence and disdain. The negativity swallowed me whole. I called in sick, stayed home for 2 days, crying until my voice was hoarse, cursing him, breaking things until the house was as shattered as I felt. When the storm inside finally calmed, the phone rang. My boss. He barked orders about changes in a contract numbers that needed to be revised urgently. I wiped my face, opened my laptop, and forced myself to work. 2 hours later, the file was sent. And just like that, the world demanded I keep moving. The following Wednesday, my director asked me to accompany him to a meeting with a potential partner. I agreed, my mask firmly in place. I finished my duties, but afterward, as I sat on the sofa in silence, the emptiness returned, pulling me down. Was it really this unbearable? Adrian Knight was my choice. No one forced me into this marriage. No one tricked me into loving him. I had chosen, and now I was living with the consequences. If you gamble, you accept losing. That's the rule. Cassandra Wells. I told myself, you are not someone who collapses from failure. 4 days after Adrian signed the papers, I called him. He picked up after a long pause, his tone cold, distant. "What is it? Are you free tomorrow? We need to go to the courthouse." There was silence on the line, a long beat. "I'm out of town. We'll talk when I get back." "How many days?" I pressed. "I don't know, a few." His voice rose with impatience when I pushed further. "I already signed the divorce agreement. What are you so afraid of that I'll change my mind?" "You have 2 days," I snapped. "Show up at the courthouse by then and I'll let you leave with your pride. But if you don't, I'll make sure everyone, your friends, your family knows exactly how you betrayed me." The line went dead. I imagined the phone flying from his hand, his fury exploding in the privacy of whatever hotel room he was in. But I no longer cared. Whether he was truly busy or simply making excuses was irrelevant. All that mattered was that the divorce be finalized. What I didn't expect was the knock on my door the following evening. Adrian stood there, his face shadowed, his smile cruel. "Why are you here?" I asked sharply. "There's something I want to ask you." His lips curled into a mocking smirk. "What, I can't come to my own wife's home anymore?" His sarcasm cut, but I didn't flinch. "What do you want, Adrian?" His expression hardened, voice cold. "You've gone too far, Cassandra. No matter what's between us, you shouldn't drag an innocent girl into this." "What are you saying?" Adrian sneered, his eyes glinting with mockery. "You really expect me to believe you had nothing to do with Scarlett losing her scholarship? Don't tell me you didn't have a hand in that." "Scarlett? Who is that?" A deep voice cut in from behind me. Adrian's head snapped up. Jonathan Knight stepped forward slowly, his face expressionless, his gaze like steel fixed on his younger brother, Scarlett Rose. Who is she? Adrian's eyes darted between us first. Me, then his brother. Why are you here? That's not the question, Jonathan replied evenly, his tone razor sharp. The question is, who the hell is Scarlett? It's none of your business, Adrian growled. Say it or I'll find out myself. Jonathan's voice hardened. Adrian's lips pressed into a thin, stubborn line, his silence more telling than any confession. I sighed, the weight pressing against my skull. Jonathan, go inside. I'll handle this. He hesitated, his eyes lingering on me, but finally turned back toward the house. I exhaled slowly, turning back to Adrian. As for Scarlett, don't bother trying to accuse me. If I wanted to destroy her, I could do it in one move. With the pictures of you in her bed with the proof of the money you funneled to her, I could have her expelled. Don't test me, Adrian. I don't want revenge. I just want a divorce. Jonathan hadn't gone far. He was still standing at the threshold listening. This is between me and Adrian, I snapped. Please stop interfering. But he ignored me, his stare drilling into Adrian. Say it. Adrian's jaw clenched. This is between me and Cassandra. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. Jonathan's composure cracked, his fist flying before I could stop him. The blow landed hard across Adrian's jaw. You bastard! Adrian staggered back, but wasn't the type to take a hit without returning one. He swung back, and within seconds the two brothers were locked in a brutal fight, fury spilling into fists. I stood still, my expression empty, and quietly closed the door, shutting out the violence. Whether they stopped minutes later or hours later, I didn't care. The next morning, I arrived at the courthouse at 8 sharp, clutching the number ticket in my hand. 10 minutes later, Adrian appeared. He sat down beside me silent, the bruise on his cheek blooming purple, his expression dark and drained. When our number was called, I rose to my feet, but suddenly Adrian's hand clamped around my wrist. His voice cracked low and raw. That night I lied. I didn't go to her. We cut it off. She called me crying about her scholarship. I knew it wasn't you, but, God, Cassandra, I was happy. Happy to have an excuse to come see you again. I've never wanted this divorce. I've never wanted to leave you. His words fell softer and softer, trembling at the edges, shame and desperation blurring his voice. And then I saw it, his eyes glassy, his lashes wet. Adrian Knight was crying. Once upon a time, that sight would have undone me. Once upon a time, I had said yes to him because of those same tear-filled eyes. But now I only felt the chill settle deeper into my bones. I looked at him squarely, my voice steady and merciless. Adrian, your tears make me feel sick. His hand tightened on my wrist, shocked, as though I had struck him harder than Jonathan ever could. What did you just say? I yanked free, tore the papers in my hand, and walked back to the clerk to take a new number. Because the truth was, we had never once sat down to speak honestly since his betrayal. He had never asked me how I knew, never asked how much I had seen. So now we would lay it bare. 6 months ago, our marriage had begun its slow death. He drowned himself in alcohol and found Scarlett Rose. Maybe she reminded him of me, maybe she was young enough to make him feel alive again. He cheated. That was the fact. And then to justify himself, he pointed his finger at me. He said I was dirty once I turned 30, that the lines on my face, the changes in my body made me a wilted flower, something rotten to the touch. He said just standing near me was like breathing decay. Adrian Knight, when you threw those words at me, did you ever stop to see what you looked like in that moment? You weren't a man. You were filth sewage clinging to my shoes and calling me unclean. That truth burned through me, scorching away the last scrap of pity I had for him. And with it, the last thread of civility between us tore apart. The divorce went forward clean and silent, without fights, without disputes. The clerk reminded us to return in a month to collect the divorce certificate. I nodded quietly while Adrian rose without a word and walked out. I called after him. When will you come to collect your things? He didn't turn around. Throw them away. Of course I couldn't. His belongings still carried echoes of a life we had once shared. In the end, it was Jonathan Knight who came to pack everything. When the boxes were stacked and the silence felt unbearable, he rolled up his sleeves, went into the kitchen, and cooked a meal himself. He poured us wine, his movements almost too careful. Drink with me, he asked softly. I didn't refuse. Jonathan drank fast, as though each glass might push words out of him. Finally, he set down the bottle, his voice low. At first, I honestly didn't know Adrian had feelings for you. If I had, maybe things would have been different. I laughed dryly and shook my head. Different how you could have cut the rope before it tangled me. Regret means nothing now. He looked away, but his silence said enough. Both families had opposed my marriage to Adrian. Yet I remembered so clearly what Adrian once said. I don't know if I'll regret being with her, but I know if I don't, I'll regret it forever. Did you agree to marry him because of that line? Jonathan asked. I swirled the wine in my glass, smiling faintly. No, I agreed because back then I thought the same way. I was braver in those years than I am now. I dared to dream of a future with a man 5 years younger than me. Now I don't even know if I have the courage to start again. Jonathan's gaze grew complicated, layered with guilt, sorrow, and something else I couldn't name. I gave him a light smile, trying to ease the weight between us. Don't worry about me. I've just realized something. Love, when it arrives, burns like fireworks. When it leaves, it destroys everything in its path. But that's okay. Everything people give you is temporary anyway. You can die from sickness, from poverty, but no one has ever died from a lack of love. Maybe the alcohol was clouding me. Maybe it was Jonathan's quiet presence, but words spilled out of me as if they had been waiting all along. He simply listened, never interrupting, never judging. When I woke the next morning, Jonathan was gone. On the table, he left a note I had to leave for the airport. I've met someone good, and this time, I'll stay. Take care of yourself, Cassandra. The fog of divorce slowly lifted. Work filled my days, leaving me little time to pity myself. And in that way, I began to breathe again. Weeks passed before Adrian Knight returned to my thoughts when Declan Cross, his closest friend, called me. Cassandra, I know I shouldn't be asking this, but in the past 2 weeks, Adrian's been hospitalized twice. Overdoses. No one can stop him. You're the only one who can reach him. He didn't think I'd come. Perhaps I didn't either until I found myself walking through the hospital corridors. When Declan saw me, his shock was plain. He stood abruptly, offering me his seat. Talk to him, I'll step out. He reached into his pocket, pulling a cigarette. But my glare stopped him. You still haven't quit. Evie is pregnant, Declan. His face flushed with embarrassment. He waved a hand, mumbled something, and left without another word. I turned back, and there he was, Adrian Knight, lying in the hospital bed, staring at me as though he'd conjured me from a dream. When our eyes met, he quickly looked away, ashamed. Adrian. I began, but he cut me off, voice rough. My left arm, it aches every time it rains. You remember when I disappeared for 6 months, I told you my father locked me in the house. But the truth is, I was in the hospital. He broke my arm. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to worry. Why are you telling me now? I asked coldly. He lifted his eyes, searching mine, his expression fragile. I gave him a small, bitter smile. Adrian, your timing couldn't be worse. If you had told me back then, I would have hurt for you. I would have believed you gave up everything to be with me, but now it's too late. That was your choice. Just like this marriage was mine, and we both have to live with our choices, good or bad. Just like me, Adrian had made his choices, and he would have to live with them. The light in his eyes dimmed to ash, and he turned away, voice breaking. If you don't intend to give me another chance, then why did you come? I leaned closer, my tone flat, resolute. I came to tell you not to destroy yourself and not to delay me from collecting the divorce papers in 2 weeks. Adrian, I want a divorce, not reconciliation. His temper snapped. Do you hate me that much? He roared. I didn't flinch. I didn't even look back. If it were you in my place, Adrian, you would have wanted me dead. With that, I walked out, my steps steady, final. Declan Cross stood nearby, helpless. I brought her here for you, Adrian. Couldn't you put your pride aside for once and speak to her like a man? Adrian's face hardened into ice. Stay out of it. Even if I die, don't you dare call her again. Declan sighed, defeated. Die? What future are you talking about? If you really wanted to fight for her, why cling so desperately to your own pride? I don't understand you. With everyone else, you're calm, calculated. But with Cassandra, you act like a reckless child. Adrian said nothing, only turned to the window, lost in silence. The truth was, he didn't know either. He wanted to beg for forgiveness, he wanted to lower his head, but facing Cassandra, he always felt this unbearable sense of grievance, as if he were the one wronged. Yes, he had cheated, yes, he had lied, but a twisted part of him still felt she owed him her unconditional acceptance. And that made his shame cut even deeper. From the moment he saw her at the airport, he had been unraveling. He wanted to claw his way back, but deep down, he knew it was hopeless. Cassandra Wells would never forgive him. The affair with Scarlett Rose had been a mistake, and his attempt to hide it only added gasoline to the fire. When Declan exposed him, his pride had lashed out in cruel, venomous words. He regretted them instantly, but pride chained his tongue. He warned Declan not to breathe a word, or their friendship was over. The shame of it all made it impossible for him to face her. He knew their marriage was beyond saving, yet the thought of losing her still made him tremble with fear. Scarlett Rose clung to him, desperately crying that Cassandra had humiliated her, even demanded she return the money Adrian had given. She pouted, "It was a gift. Why should I return it, Adrian? Are you going to let her bully me like this?" Adrian had laughed bitterly. Cassandra had always been this way, unyielding, merciless when wronged. And she was right. If she had truly wanted to ruin Scarlett, she could have destroyed her future with one flick of her wrist. Scarlett, naive and delusional, still believed that once the divorce was final, she could take Cassandra's place. She didn't understand that Adrian could be with anyone. Anyone except her. She wasn't his future. She was a stain, a reminder of his weakness, his failure. Who keeps a scar willingly? The money was long gone, spent recklessly, and Adrian ended up covering it himself. Finally, he told her coldly, "Don't come near me again, or I'll come collect what you owe." She slapped him, called him a fraud, and stormed out. Adrian took the slap in silence like he had taken everything else. After his release from the hospital, he buried himself in work, trying to numb the gnawing emptiness. And when the day came, he didn't resist. He walked beside Cassandra Wells into the courthouse, silent, obedient, a shadow of the man he had once been. She was radiant, still proud, untouchable. Watching her walk ahead of him, Adrian suddenly blurted out, "Cassandra, tell me to apologize." Her back stiffened. His hands shook in his pockets, his throat working, but the words jammed like stones. She glanced back once, her disappointment sharp enough to cut. She turned and started walking again. Something inside him broke. He stepped forward, his voice ragged, raw. "Cassandra, I'm sorry." She stopped for half a breath, then raised her hand in a small, dismissive wave, her pace quickening as she left him behind. This time, her silhouette looked lighter, as if she had finally set down a burden she should never have carried. And Adrian Knight, standing there in the sterile light of the courthouse, knew he had lost her forever. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next videos.